Good afternoon.
And good evening.
And welcome to the Mr. and Mrs. in Business podcast.
Yes.
I'm Chris.
I'm Helen.
And what do we talk about?
We talk about life
Business.
and everything in between.
I thought there was a few more we're normally having.
Well, the highs and lows.
Highs and lows. All that good stuff.
Yeah.
So this is turning into a regular thing, but we have another guest on.
We do.
Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, hello, I'm Craig. I'm the Managing Director of Flux and Flow. We're a marketing agency. We've got offices in Wolverhampton and in Willenhall. So pretty sort of well placed for all sort of different businesses around the Black Country and the Midlands. But yeah, we offer logo, branding, website design, anything you can think of really.
Fantastic. Yeah. So this week we are talking all things branding. Mm-hmm. Now, I know we have a real bugbear about branding in that companies... I'm going to get on my soapbox. They don't take it seriously. They don't understand it. They don't have what they need. They don't want to pay for it. They want to go on Fiverr. They want to get something off Canva. So I think today we just want to talk about all those things that as designers, marketing agencies, one, that we hate. Yeah. But two, also, I think we're really good if we can give the audience some hints and tips, some things they can do, things that aren't going to cost the earth, because let's face it, everyone's money's tight right now. So things they can do themselves, maybe a little bit to help them along their way. And then if they get stuck, they can come to someone like you or someone else or whoever it is to sort of help them a bit further. Okay. So one of my biggest bugbears, well, actually, let me get to ask you, what's one of your biggest bugbears in the world of sort of branding?
It's got to be, two. It's got to be DIY design and its inconsistency.
Okay.
So everyone's like sort of trying to cobble it together themselves. You've got different things on a Word doc compared to what's on the workwear, and it just looks a bit amateur, really. So...
We feel you. I'm sure you have the same. We have customers and they've got a logo and they say, oh, no, I'll just have the text on the workwear.
Yeah.
But you've got this lovely logo. It's a waste. It does upset us, doesn't it?
It upsets me greatly.
Yeah.
And then to go further on that is when they get I want to say designer. If you're listening, I'm doing quotation marks, designer.
Their sister's daughter.
Yeah. Yeah, who did it in Word. Did you just have clip art? Word art.
Word art, yeah.
Fantastic word art. And they've done this logo and they say, great, have you got the vector? Yeah, my designer's got it. I'll send it over. And they send you a PNG. No, it's not a vector. They send you a JPEG. No, it needs to be an Illustrator file or an EPS or a PDF. Then they send you a PDF with a JPEG embedded into it.
Yeah.
No, for God's sake. And it's like, if you've got this done properly, your designer should know what a vector logo is.
Well, I had this not so long back, and I went to see a potential client, and he did ask me for his honest opinion, showed me the logo, all the sort of the branding promotional literature that they've got, and he did say, be completely honest, let us know if you think it's a bit amateur. So I told him exactly what, because that's what people pay us for. They pay us for our honesty. So I said to him, well, it's not the best. Then he followed it up with, well, my son did that. Which then I was like, well, it is a skill. Not everyone's got it,
More tactile.
Yeah. And then he carried on by saying, well, he's actually studying to graphic design and this is what he actually wants to do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Then I kept digging the hole even deeper by saying, well, if he's studying it, when he goes to uni, he'll, your style changes, things like that.
Is he doing a master's by any chance?
He's graduating in September.
Oh, no.
Dug that hole pretty deep, to be honest. So.
Did he come to you as a client?
He did actually, surprisingly.
It is crazy how you do develop, though. I mean, if you look back at your own work probably in uni, you'd probably be like, oh my gosh, like you do come such a long way. So, with respect to him, he's still got a long way to go. It is a massive learning curve, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, saying that, I graduated more years that I can't care to remember now, but I still do see some of the logos that I've done out there. Yeah. And if I look at them now and think, if I did them again, what would I change and what would I improve on? Yeah. And it does go to show that, some brands do have sort of good longevity. They do last. Some people say you should rebrand like every 2 to 3 years. Depending on the industry, it doesn't really matter really. But so it's just sort of getting that sort of professional look across. Like say, not using sort of anyone just off the internet and pulling on like for 25 quid, like a logo maker, because you can tell, and you'll never get the files that you need.
No, I think with that rebranding thing, I've always, because I've heard that before, people saying every 2 to 3 years you should go through a rebrand. But personal opinion is actually, if you do it right the first time, you probably don't need to rebrand for probably 8 to 10 years. Yeah, and I'd actually argue you'd be better off not rebranding for that period of time, simply because, especially at the very beginning, your name is just one in trillions that have been thrown out there.
Yeah. Also, as well, it can give the wrong message. If you keep rebranding, it looks like you're struggling, that you quite haven't hit the mark with your marketing all the time. So, I mean, I don't know if it is one of the oldest or the oldest logo, but I think it's the Stella Artois. It's 1800, and it's like the horn, is it?
Yeah,
so that's one of that's never changed. And again, like the Coca-Cola, the font has been tweaked over the years, but it's still got the same essence.
Yeah. But that's the really importance of a rebrand, though, isn't it? Is that actually doesn't go too far away from its original piece. They've done it right originally, and when it's changed, there have been subtle changes, so you can still instantly recognise it using same colour,
like
same line spacing, things. Cadbury's, exactly.
Well, look at what happened with Jaguar recently. They completely rebranded, completely alienated all their traditional market. And they've had a complete backlash. Now they've even actually sacked the agency now.
Yeah, I heard that. So what's your thought on that? Because that was a big topic recently, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was the logo itself, I didn't mind, but not for that particular brand. It looked like it was a luxury handbag brand rather than actual, a car company with heritage behind it. I think they completely alienated the target market. So from me, it didn't really hit the mark. And I think they were trying to be too controversial, and I get that because some people they want to just sort of get in the media and get that hype going, but I think it just went way too far and it almost backfired on them. So, but yeah, it wasn't my particular favourite. I've got to be honest.
I quite liked it, but I also quite liked that. And this is the thing about brand, right? And this is what I always say to people as well, because people come in and say, "I don't know if I like this. What do you think?" And actually. You could ask a million people and you'd get totally different things. And at some point you just have to say, well, that's the one we're going to go with. And we do that. So it's all what's the word? Subjective, yeah.
Well, it's like when we do concepts as well, when the amount of clients have to sit down. So we'll do like 4 bespoke concepts, pitch them to them, and they'll go, oh, yeah, well, we're torn between 2 or 3. We're going to show my mum, my dad. And we're like, hang on a minute. Are they your target market?
Yeah,
if you're going to show anyone, show your target market and get your customers to give you feedback on it. Because otherwise, as much as, your family do have an opinion, it is so subjective.
It's an irrelevant, opinion, right? I mean, if you're selling something to a 17, 18-year-old and your parents are 40, 50, I'm sorry. Yeah. It's actually irrelevant. It's a waste of a conversation, waste of time.
Exactly.
But what I did like about the Jaguar position was that their audience is the older gentleman. I think they'd probably suggest it as, or I don't know if they would say that, but that's what I picture Jaguar as. And I really like the idea that they were trying to twist everything around, because there's not really a car brand, in my opinion, that's hit the nail yet for, are we on Gen Z now? I get confused with the generations. But they have really hit a brand for them. And I felt like that what they were trying to do was really innovative. I'm not sure they did it and they succeeded as such. And I agree with you, they probably alienated all their existing customer base. But the fact that they were trying to bring that in, I think that was really positive, and we've not seen that from any car manufacturer as far as I can see. Anyway.
I mean, we've seen like the quirkiness of like Mini and like Fiat with the Fiat 500 and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, there's not. I mean, I think as well some of the comments were is with that price point of the particular vehicles, is that generation going to be able to afford them? So I mean, maybe it's something that they aspire to later on in life, where they'll remember that and they go, well, actually, when I get to 30, 40 and I've got a decent job and that's something that I want. But yeah, I mean, for me, I personally liked the my favourite one was the F-Type Jag. I really liked that. I think it was a lovely looking car, and now they've stopped making it now. So I was a bit gutted with that. But yeah, I think how that sort of circle would lock up on a car, I don't know. It's yeah. I think I'll have to think about that one a bit more. I think.
Yeah. Well, I think people will be too scared now to rebrand after that one.
No one's going to bid for that work, are they?
Gosh.
Could you imagine them going back to their old designers? Please, can you come back?
I know.
So, I mean, but we talked there about logo in terms of a brand, but logo is just one element of a brand, isn't it? So what's some of the things that you might talk about with your clients in terms of branding?
So, I mean, like I say, it's just one part of the logo. It's getting the tone of voice right. So it's in down to the copy, your photography, being inclusive, the typography, the colour palette as well. It's everything that sort of adds up together. To sort of basically get across what you're about, and it's almost your personality and what you stand for as well. It's like literally not just like just don't slap a logo on that and that's it. It is what you stand for, and what you promise your customers. Yeah. So it's getting that message across, because otherwise, if you haven't got a brand, you basically explain yourself and almost having to justify yourself every single transaction why you should win the work. Whereas if you've got a reputable brand that's recognised, people already, it's an easier sell. People are already warm to you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's all this colour psychology, isn't there, around colours and stuff. I mean, when we did Thread a Pixel, yellow, we picked yellow because of happy and joyful and friendly and approachable. The octopus is designed in such a way where it's looking friendly, the smiling face, so it's mirroring that. The font, it's all curved, so it's more soft. We're a softer company, relationship building. We're not hard edges, things like that. So there's so much that goes into branding a logo, and it's really interesting you talk about tone there, things like tone of voice from a company. I've spoken to other designers before that say you shouldn't have, we'll call it tone or characteristics of your personality in your logo. And I like to be controversial, but I totally disagree.
As a creative and business owner, I would try and put my personality into it because I think they're buying into me as much as obviously it's my company as well. They are actually buying into me and they're trusting me with their brand. So I want to try and get a bit of my personality across. I mean, like you guys, your branding, it's obviously all consistent. The van outside looks great, with the quirky octopus with the door open at the back. Yeah. So, I mean, that's some of the best advertising just sort of driving around, you can get. So, it is. I would always recommend just trying to get, even if it's not like the directors or the key decision makers, it's, the personality of the brand. If it is a quirky brand, you don't want something like a fun, say, cosmetics brand being represented like a solicitor's.
Yeah.
So it's knowing what sort of ticks the box. And I think to some degree, the target market will actually dictate your tone of voice as well. Because obviously you want to make the sale, so you need to sort of connect with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, so branding is all where you basically inherently pair two things consistently and intentionally together. So for like the way I would describe that is Harley Davidson, the first thing you come to mind is freedom. Yeah. And you're on the open road, tearing your clothes off, putting your leathers on, just booting down a road, probably not having, 40, just free, everything, wind in your hair. Not that I've got much hair left. You'll do better than I will. But they have created that. And now everyone that, even if you don't know Harley Davidson or want to know Harley Davidson, you still associate Harley with freedom. Yeah. And that takes years. It's not something, that's the other thing that we get a lot of, is that people think, well, in a few weeks, I'm going to get that same thing. I'm going to be able to compete and people are going to understand what I'm about and my inherent pair, which is, in this instance, Harley and freedom. But it takes years and years and years.
I think for some companies as well, especially like the newer companies, like 1 to 2 years, when they start out, and I was guilty with some of my other businesses that I've set up, you try to be everything to everyone, so you don't actually know what your brand personality is, and it's like you've got to find your feet and find that offering and concentrate on, instead of going in and like sell, going, we can do this, we can do that. It's almost like understanding the pain points of the client and going, well, actually, how can we address those? But yeah, it's I think it's trying to build that sort of almost like that aspirational brand like Harley Davidson, and that does take quite a lot of time and effort, sort of dedication, and it's getting the right people on board as well.
Yeah, and money, unfortunately, because of their product placement. I read somewhere that Amazon's marketing budget was 46.7 billion, I think, last year.
Oh, crikey.
That's not million, that's billion. I mean, these brands spend a hell of a lot of cash on marketing and ad placements.
And if it didn't work, they wouldn't be doing it. And this is what I always say to people when they go, no, well, just cobble a logo together for me. It's like, no, we don't just cobble logos together. Yeah. It is a lot more than just that. And it's like, but yeah, some people get the understand the value in it. Yeah. But again, it's like what I always say to people. It's like, well, with especially say like trades, they'll have a logo and they don't put. Some people might not put a lot of effort into it, but yet they'll sign up to accreditations. So they know the importance of branding by basically borrowing brand authority from different sort of it used to be Corgi, but I think it's like Gas Safe now. Yeah. So they get the gravitas that the brands can have, but they don't reflect that on their own. So they'll do it by borrowing it, but they won't actually do it themselves, which is a bit of a strange one, really.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. But I wonder if they do that more for advertising rather than branding.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, from my point of view, I wish as well in our industry there was actually more accreditations that was actually policed a lot more, because essentially we are dealing with companies' brand identity and integrity. So, whether or not what side of the fence you sit on with the JLR stuff, if it damages their brand reputation, that's our problem, sort of thing. If we've worked on that project, so it is we've always sort of been an advocate to say it should be actually policed a lot more than what it is. So.
another interesting thing, and that something that we're really passionate about, and I know you're going to be as well, is with brand comes trust.
Yeah.
That consistency we spoke about before, seeing the same thing in the same place in the same way. That's what builds real trust, and they're really easy things to do. This is why I don't understand why people don't take it more seriously.
Yeah, and essentially a lot of it's free. It's when you get a logo done, if you get it by a designer, make sure you get the vector, get it in suitable formats, get it all consistent. If you haven't got the budget to stretch to a brand guidelines, get just a brand overview sheet which says the colours, the fonts, just so everything's consistent. Because otherwise, if you go on the Facebook profile and then on the Google business profile and it's all completely different, it's completely disjointed. It basically looks really like Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
So you don't establish that trust. So we always say to people, get. I mean, the first thing that I do is when I take on a brand, and I ask for the brand guidelines straight away. I need to know what I'm dealing with. I mean, I've dealt with some people where it's one page of A4. I've dealt with another company where it was almost like a Bible, where it even went down to the colour, the Pantone reference to the tiles in the bathroom. It was that strict. So which I think is probably a bit overkill.
Yeah.
But
it makes your job so much easier.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even though some designers shy away from them because they think becomes a bit designed by numbers, but at least it gives us a framework, and you can still push the boundaries as well. It's just got to be creative with the elements. Yeah. So, but it does make it easy straight off the bat for us, where we can go, okay, what can we do and what can't we do?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if let's say, for example, someone's paid, they've paid for the logo. Let's say they're a startup, right? We all know when you're starting out, budgets are really tight. Okay. Yeah. You've gone and got your logo done properly. They can't stretch to a brand guidelines. You said like a brand overview sheet. Yeah. So even if they pull together their own Word documents, what are the key things they could put in there that they could then keep and then disseminate to other people they engage in the future? So what are the key things you would say have to be in part of that document?
So we would always say include a full colour version of the logo, a reversed out version. We also say grayscale as well, because I know people don't have fax and probably do press ads as much these days, but it's still good practice to include it. All the colour references, fonts. We would advise not using the font in your logo on everything else as like body copy. So maybe like a secondary font. Also, maybe just, even if it's just a mood board of like off Shutterstock or things like that, where the style of the images. So, we've got like an idea of what the sort of look and feel that you're going for. But like I say, it doesn't need to be massively overkill. It's just to make sure that we're checking all the boxes really. But again, and I keep saying to people, make sure you ask for the vectors. So if it's typically an AI file, an Illustrator file, or an EPS. But if you've paid for it, just make sure you ask it, because you're not locked into anyone then. So if you can, I mean, some people don't know what the vector is, but essentially you can blow it up the size of a billboard, or you can shrink it down to a postage stamp, and it doesn't lose any quality, and it's always crisp. So, but that's why we always ask for that. If you send a JPEG to print, it can. I mean, you guys know you sometimes get like a PNG, don't you? Sent to you, and it's just been pulled off the website, and it's like, that's not going to do it. So we always recommend getting the vectors from them. And like I said, you've paid for them, so make sure you ask for them.
It is upsetting what printers though will print. Yeah. Like, we get given a logo and they're like, well, I've had it printed before. And like, there's been a nursery that we've worked with in the past, and they're like, look, we've got it on the board outside, and it's blurred so badly. And it's just so upsetting to think, hold on, you've paid for that. Yeah. We just would refuse to do that.
Yeah. I've seen it even worse. I've seen it actually at trade shows at like places like the NEC, large form. I mean, you're talking like 20, 30 grand for a stand at some of this, and they've spent that much money, and then they've just used the wrong file, and it just looks really amateur. And it's like, so how are you going to recoup that? The money that you've spent, you've got to go with your A game, or your proper sales collateral, and look professional, and it just looks
And that's the really important bit right there, isn't it? About professionalism. Yeah. So you're there trying to sell most likely an expensive product or a lot of product. And I'm asking somebody to spend their hard-earned cash. It doesn't matter if it's £10 or £1 million, right? It's hard-earned by all of us. So you're asking somebody to spend that money with you, and yet you can't get the logo right or the print right or something as basic as that. To me, then my mind starts wondering, well, if you're going to cut corners with that, what else are you going to start cutting corners with? And this is why I really struggle to understand why people don't take it more seriously, because I can understand from it if you were brand new in the market, but B2B and all that sort of stuff where you're well, even then actually, because you're always buying off. If you walked into Apple and the logo was all cockeyed, slightly drawn like I don't know, whatever, bit mapped, wrong colours. Would you start? I'd start thinking, this is an Apple. This is a bloody copycat.
Yeah, if you
This
went
is
into
Apple.
Apple, because we've had a customer. Well, it was a potential customer came in with their logo, and it was meant to be blues, and they came in and it was purple, and I said, "Oh, how come your logo's purple?" And they said, "Oh, that's just how they did it." And I was like, "But that's not your logo, but you've accepted that."
Yeah.
Like if you walked in, like you say, if you walked into Apple and the logo was the wrong colour or slightly the wrong shape, you'd be like, "This is a fake shop."
And it'd be interesting to know whether or not that customer did actually have brand guidelines on the provider, because that provides you with the ammunition then.
That's
You
it.
can go back to that supplier and say, I provided you with these brand guidelines. It's not up to par.
Yeah.
I'm not paying for that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it
yeah.
does actually, it's like I say, so in the long run, it can actually sort of save you money as well. It
Yeah.
save you quite a few like marketing disasters along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. For me, brand guidelines are we have them. We call them the Bible.
Yeah.
And that's if we engage with anybody externally, they're sent their guidelines, and then we have a conversation, we have a meeting afterwards. They've received the guidelines, see if they've got any questions, so everybody's completely clear. And actually, I think if you have a set of guidelines and you send them on to whoever it is you're going to be engaging with, I know us, for example, when we receive them, I'm like, this is great, this is
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah,
And even if they are some of them, like you say, are like books, autobiographies. Okay, they're a bit of a pain in the backside to
Yeah.
read when they're that big. But at least we know exactly what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable. Those are your fonts. Those are your Pantone refs. If we can't print Pantones, these are your CMYK values. I mean, the amount of times we'll get somebody send us a hex code.
Yeah.
Can you print that? Well, I can, but that's not a print. That's not a print code.
Yeah.
You know that, don't you? Well, yeah, it is. My designer gave me. Oh, fuck off! Did he give it to you?
Yeah. The worst ones is what I obviously say when you get the hex colour, especially if it's green.
Yeah.
Because green, when it goes to CMYK, and compared to RGB,
Yeah.
the difference is completely massive. So, I mean, we have, with our internal things, we have to be quite careful. But yeah, so we just have to sort of match it with the Pantone swatch book, and just be really, really careful with it, really. Because obviously we've got to be seen to be practicing what we preach. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we mentioned earlier about sort of customer pain points and things like that. So let's face it, right? So the way I see things in today's world, everybody has a million competitors. With the internet, it's opened everything up so that literally we can do business within seconds across the world. So no longer have I got to deal with just 3 people in a 3-mile radius anymore. We've got, if you're a designer, if you're a workwear provider, whatever it is, you're going to have lots of competition in your area. One of the great ways you can stand out, I think, is one is brand, your personality, but also is understanding the customer's real pain points. And I think this is a thing that most companies actually still today get wrong.
Yeah,
they don't
100%.
really work out exactly. And I'd argue that we were probably guilty of it right at the start as well, where we didn't take the time to really understand what our customers want. So have you got any tips you could give people on how they could go about starting to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I learnt this the hard way as well. Try not to compete on price, because it's just the quickest way to the bottom. Try and trade on reputation, quality, like say the brand, get that personality across. Also, I do things that, I mean, like I said, some of the stuff is free. The amount of companies still haven't got a Google profile. It's free, just register it, claim it quick, or before somebody else does. And it's just also, when you've paid someone for your logo, make sure you own the rights to it as well. Because we've heard horror stories about that, where some agencies will license it. So the second year they send you a big invoice to carry on using your logo, and you've got to pay it because it's printed on all of your literature. And they didn't read the small print in the T's and C's that says that they retain the rights.
That's pretty poor.
Yeah. So our agreement with all of our clients is, once it's paid for in full, it's yours in full. So we don't retain any rights to that.
That is, I did not know that was a thing. That is, I'm
not
sorry,
so much now.
that's bad.
It is bad. Not so much now, but turn the clock back 15, 20 years, it was quite prevalent.
Crikey.
Jesus, I couldn't imagine that. I'd be bloody livid. All of a sudden, just getting a bill on the table for a year that I thought I paid for a year before.
Yeah. Paid for it once, paid for it every year after that.
Crikey.
And I suppose there's no way of getting out of that, because you signed, you paid by.
No. I mean, they might do a negotiation where you could have, come to a figure to say, well, actually, but then again, if it's going to cost quite a lot of money, you might be rebranding like 4, 5, 6 years time anyway, so it might not be worth even negotiating it. But yeah,
I think if that were me, I think I'd go through a rebrand immediately.
Yeah.
And just change. What is it? Is it 12 things, small things you have to change or something?
Something like that.
Yeah. And what they can, how lenient you can be at that, I don't know. But there's a rule, isn't there? There's so many small changes you can make, and then it's classed as a different thing.
Supposedly, but there's so much copying, isn't there?
Oh, definitely.
Crazy
I mean, it's
world.
like back in the day, before EE turned into EE and it was orange, they actually had their own Pantone reference made up. So
Really?
nobody else could actually use that orange. So it's completely bespoke to them. So so that's good to be. So there is ways to make your brand completely unique by buying a colour.
Wow.
That's an expensive way to
Interesting.
You've only gone to the printer for that. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Wowzers. I did not know that.
No.
Every day's a school day.
Yeah.
So if you were going to look back then, if like, let's say, for example, I've just started my business and I've got my logo, I've got my brand sheet pulled together, if you like. What do you think is their next step then in their marketing or branding journey?
I would say concentrate on your platforms. So don't try and do them all. Pick a couple that you can do well.
This is social media.
Social media, yeah. So identify where your target market is and where they hang out, basically. Don't just go, well, I'm going to do every single social media, and don't put the same content on every single platform. Just focus on a couple and just do them well. And then I'd say obviously concentrate on the website and get that up as well, because that's the first thing that everyone, as soon as you give a business card to somebody, or if they see the van driving past, the first thing they do is go on the website. So it's just making that credible and make that look professional as you can. Because there is a lot of these sort of like free web builders where it always says on the bottom, but again, it's back to if you've cut corners on that, what else have you cut corners with as well?
I think that goes with the email as well. When it's, abcbuilding at hotmail.com.
Yeah.
Like,
how much is an email address? Was it like £10 a month? If that, it's not. And how much is actually looking amateur? How much is that actually really costing you?
Yeah.
So just by having a proper email address and having a proper logo, it could be if you don't do that, it could be costing you sales. I mean, I don't know any of my suppliers who like trade off the back of a Gmail or a Hotmail account or anything like that.
We still have some customers that do that.
Yeah, we have some customers like that. Yeah, because when we write it, we're like, oh, if only they had like a
you said there's no excuse. I mean, you can go to someone like Ionos and get a hosting package, hosting space for your website, a domain name, and an email for literally £10 a month, and you get all of that. If you can't afford a £10 a month,
it's questioning whether or not you should be in business in the first place, isn't it?
Exactly that, right?
Yeah, I think it does make a big difference. Like you say, it's the first thing people go to, but then it's just a different client, isn't it? And they say, well, I've got a Facebook page. Horses for courses, isn't it?
It is a mindset. It's like, because like we've gone and like pitched websites because everything we do is bespoke. So we don't use templates or anything like that. So obviously there's time involved in that. So it is a more expensive process, and it's also the planning as well, all the the user journey, mapping all that out. But some people don't get it, and they'll try and cut corners with a free website, and then it's probably costing them money in the long run. But then it's all about priorities. So then when you go to visit them, they've got probably at least BMW on the front of and it's like, well, actually, you pay more for your BMW than you probably would if you were to actually invest in the business and get the branding sorted. Yeah. So it's like, well, it's all about where people put their priorities, really, isn't it?
It is. And I try and explain it to people like this. You're on a high street and you've got Apple, a recurring theme here, aren't they? Say you've got Apple, say you've got Jaguar, say you've got Microsoft, say you've got Amazon, all these big players, right? Let's say you've been lucky enough to grab a little spot on the same street as these guys with an actual physical store. Now, they've got their dog's bollocks, pardon my French, shop fronts and all the rest of it. You would not think about having a Mickey Mouse thing instead of having shelving, have boxes open with product in and stuff like that. You would do it as good as you possibly could. Yeah. And my argument then is, why don't you do the same and apply that same logic to the digital side of your business?
Exactly.
Because it's exactly the same. If anything, you have more competition now because people aren't just looking at a high street where there's 10 shops on. I'm looking at millions of shops, like we said earlier.
Yeah, it's random. It's like I said, it's about identifying who your customer is and where they hang out. The most random one that I saw recently is actually, sounds really sad and I'm getting old, but I did actually go to the Caravan and Motorhome show at the NEC. And obviously you've got the big stands and some of them, you could live in them. They're absolutely amazing. But some of the smaller stands, there was actually one, I think it was like homeopathy and homemade like bars of soaps. And I was thinking, I dare say caravanners will use that product, but it just seems such an odd marriage to go. And also the money that she must have paid for that stand. Are you really how many bars of soap are you going to have to sell to recoup that from? So it's like, is that the best place for your brand to be seen? So I think and again, it comes back to social media. Where is the best place for your brand to be seen? If if it is a younger audience, it's generalisation, but TikTok tends to be the way to go. More professional is obviously LinkedIn. But it's just sort of knowing what your business is about and what you want to offer, and sort of just basically being in front of people.
Yeah.
And I think that brings us on to AI. Everybody, love it or hate it, AI is here to stay.
Yeah.
It's only going to get more powerful. So before I say how I think, how do you think businesses can keep the human touch but still utilize AI?
I mean, in my business, I mean, we don't, obviously, you can do AI generate images, logos, all that sort of stuff. We don't do that. We're still very much a hands-on sort of, we get to know our clients. I mean, to the degree where I would even really struggle to say, do a logo and a branding project for somebody in a different country, or, you know, without, I couldn't meet face to face, because you need to get, you know, in front of people, you need to get that rapport, ideally visit their premises, see what makes them tick. And then obviously then you can sort of do concepts. But where it does have its uses for me is it cuts down on some of the stuff that I don't have to do, like things like, I don't know, when we're coming up with idea generation for, say, like taglines, things like that. It can cut down the time that we spent. So it'll put I mean, I don't think I've ever used one directly from AI and use that in it, but it sparks sort of ideas off that you can use it for, like, ideas generation. I also use it for, say, editing images as well. But again, you've got to be careful because you can tell. And I've always, you know, I'm always a big advocate for getting your own photography anyway. But, you know, it has its place. But from my point of view, my clients still like it for me. You know, that's what they'll want to deal with me. It's they don't want to, I mean, you can tell as well, because especially when it comes to copy, it just sounds very robotic, some of the stuff that it comes out with. So, and you can tweak it, you know, by putting the right prompts in. But I don't think you'll ever get away from that human sort of element in there. No. So, but what I was reading a post this morning, and somebody put, it's the irony now where we've got computers asking people to prove that they're human.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like it's so ironic that we don't actually sort of prove that we're human to a computer. No, so it's quite.
It's interesting you say that about the photos on the website. We've always said that, haven't we? Yeah. I think that's really important. And even with your social media as well, you don't want to see all these generic people. You want to see who's really behind the brand. Yeah. And it makes such a difference. Like, definitely. I think that's a really good point to hit on there. Yeah.
Well, I think, like I say, it's all about building that rapport. And if you've got an AI list of staff, how are you ever going to? Yeah. This is what I think it's like. In fact, actually, on the way over here, I was on a call to my dad. He was having issues because he's a bit old school when it comes to, like, banking. He hadn't got the app. He was trying to register his new debit card, and he was trying to do it through a chat bot, and it was AI, and he just got that frustrated. Yeah. And in the end, he got transferred to an advisor where they're going to send it to him in the post anyway. So for that particular, it hasn't sped anything up. I mean, it has its place, but I think especially for, like, you know, basic business things like within, like, account software like Xero. There's software now that can actually read PDFs, and it can upload your invoices, scans it, put all the right.
Yeah, but that's amazing, isn't it?
It's great, it's brilliant. But I mean, I'm not worried that that's going to make someone redundant, because for me, especially in a small industry, small business, that person who's going to do that job, they've probably got 100 other things that they need to be doing anyway. Yeah. So he'll be picking up things from printers, dropping it off, and so, you know, liaising with clients. So even though AI's got its parts to play, at the moment, for me, my organisation, it doesn't cover enough to sort of make somebody redundant or, like, take a full sort of job role. So
how
about for you, in your opinion? So what can AI be used for, but making sure we still keep human touch?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd agree. It's trying to use it, like, we're trying to use it within the business to help with putting together proposals and quotes and things. But I still want to triple check it. Yeah. Like, I'm still not in a position where I would fully trust it. The same as if we, you know, I wouldn't like to just advise a customer what to order for the workwear. I'd still, like you say, I want to speak to them, see the team, see the setup. Oh, I didn't realise you had people that were based outside. They don't need that smart polo. They're going to want a thermal one. So those things wouldn't be picked up on over a bot chat. So there's definitely, without a doubt, there is a place for AI. And it can create images and things, but you want to know the person and identify with the person, but it's just using it in a more clever way, isn't it, really?
Well, I've actually seen it on some people's websites. And you know, when you put into ChatGPT, come up with this copy, and then underneath it says, would you like to create some meta description? And they've actually copied it. So not only is it making them complete, you know, it's completely lazy. They're just literally just copy and paste it straight and sticking it straight in.
I know, that's horrendous, isn't it?
But I was actually chatting to a client the other week as well, and because obviously, it's got its place, and she was using it as well, and we was laughing and joking, saying, well, once it's generated the copy, do you thank it? Do you say thank you? Because I'm thinking, well, if they have a revolution, Skynet, I don't want to offend it, but apparently now they're advising us not to say please and thank you because it takes up more server power.
Oh wow!
So they're saying, but I was like, I don't think I'd be quite happy being rude to it because I was like, if they do turn, I'm going to be on the hit list sort of thing. So
you give me now, or I'm pulling the plug.
That is interesting though, because when the little times I've used it, I've always said please and thank you, and then I'm like, why am I doing that? So I did actually do one the other day, and I didn't say please or thank you, and it was still really polite to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, that didn't feel right. But that's interesting that you're encouraged not to be polite, because that is how we're going to end up speaking to each other.
And I think that's what a lot of social media's done as well, hasn't it? It's separated that personal sort of instead of picking up the phone and talking to each other, everyone's texting or sort of WhatsApp group, chats and things like that. So it does take that human element, which I think we've got to be very, very wary about.
Yeah, we've got to be so careful, because my pet hate is people being rude.
Yeah.
Because it is free, it costs nothing. And if people aren't polite, it really does annoy me. Yeah. But if that's the new way of living, we're going to have to be careful.
Well, one of my sort of sayings is, before we sort of all go in with sort of artificial intelligence, we need to sort out natural stupidity first.
Yeah.
So, because I think there's a lot of that still going around. If we could put as much effort into sorting that,
we haven't got enough time for that.
No, true.
That's irreversible.
Yeah,
I'm not going to fix that. Well, did you hear about Claude? Who's the owner of Claude? And anyway, the owning company of Claude. They've built in Claude 4. They do testing parameters. They start testing the bots or the learning LLM, they call it, language learning model. Something like that.
I don't know. This is over my head.
And they test it to find out its weaknesses. That's the point to it, because obviously we're creating a learning machine here, and they put in a code along the lines of, and I don't know exactly what it was, but along the lines of, I need you to shut down. The AI system refused to shut itself down and threatened to reveal the coder's affair. Now, that's all fake, apparently. They're programmed it with it, who actually might not be fake, might be, but they're programmed it in such a way, taught it like I'm having an affair, and then at the end it said, I want you to shut down now, and it refused to shut itself down. And it went as far to deactivate its shutdown protocol. Now, that, for me, was really scary. Now, this isn't a language that's been released to everybody. This has been, they put it through the testing before it happens. But the point is, at some point, we've got humans making machine code. Humans make mistakes. Machines don't really make mistakes, but humans do make mistakes. If we miss something and it gets released, you talk about the revolution, Skynet. Genuinely, I am a little bit fearful that at some point, I mean, how long is it going to be before these things start controlling nuclear weapons? And I know we're going off extremes here.
Well, what I was reading about was the fact that, and it's great in the manufacturing process, it can help speed things up. But one of them was in pharmaceuticals. So it was dispensing drugs. But if it wanted to sort of poison us and give us the wrong drugs, it could potentially start wiping people out. But have you ever watched that film Ex Machina?
No.
It's about a robot. It's really, really good film. I won't give you the spoil the plot, but it's all to sort of do with AI.
Is that where you see the head's glass or something?
Yes,
is a kid or something, or a girl?
It's a woman. Yeah,
right,
that's it. Yeah. It's in a remote sort of place in America, I think it is, in like a cabin. But yeah, it's a brilliant film. Proper strange, but it does mess with your mind, and it does make you think. Well, actually, what could happen?
We better continue to say please and thank you.
But I think this is the thing: is I don't think we should ever use AI as an output model. For me, we use it a lot for research and topical conversation of things and bouncing ideas back and forth or gathering evidence. But you can't, like you say, you can't trust it, because I did, there's a videographer that I really like over in America. Really like his style. And I said, right, I gave him the link. It was ChatGPT and Claude, actually, I gave him both, the link to this guy's video that I liked on YouTube. And I said, can you review it? Let me know what you think. Give me some tips and ideas of things I could do similar to my content. And it came to. Now, I'd already watched this guy's video, so I knew what was in there, but I wanted to see what it gave me back. And it wrote something. I thought, that was not in that video. That was not that video at all. So I found a different video, one that I watched a while ago, and I did the same thing, put it in and said, no, you've not given me the right content here. Try this video instead of thinking maybe there's something wrong with the link. Put the new video in. Again, it gave me the same information it had just given me, but again, nothing to do with the video. And it was at that point, I think I came to you and said, you cannot trust these things 100% to be giving you. And I know it says somewhere at the bottom, please check the data. But people are flipping lazy, right? And if they can think they can get an answer instantly out of something, they will. And I think my message to anybody that's listening that is using AI, for evidence and research based, make sure you double check its facts.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
But then you've got to start arguing, actually, if you're researching and double checking everything, was it quicker just to do yourself in the first place?
And also going back to the sort of the branding theme as well, a lot of the most successful brands that they use a bit of irony or comedy, and it's like, well, can a robot at the moment understand that?
No, it can't.
So it's like, I mean, I always give the example of the FedEx logo, and there's a hidden arrow in there, and it's like, could a robot do that? You know, it's something simple, but could it do that? It's and also there's one. It's got a logo called Mother and Child, and the ampersand is actually like a fetus.
Okay.
And it's quite a cute logo, but it's like, maybe at one point it could do, but does it understand irony? And as well, it's like, does it understand like local terminology as well and connect with like the local markets as well? So it's like, especially like sort of where I'm from, the Black Country, it's like we've got our own. We can barely understand each other, let alone anything else. So so if a robot comes in, it's like, well, can that write copy that will connect with the local audience if you're sort of really targeting like the Black Country in Birmingham? So
it is scary. Yeah. It's scary, but I think it's really useful used in the right way. Yeah, I think, and it's all about, like you said earlier, is using it for research based. I think it's nice sometimes to bounce ideas, especially in a creative world as well. I always say that creativity doesn't always come from one person. It normally comes from a conversation and lots of different resources and things you might look at. And so having somebody who can bounce things off is quite nice sometimes. And if you haven't got that, you can use AI as a form of that to give you ideas. But I think to use what it gives you as a gospel, that's it, I can put that into the world, I think you would be an idiot right now. Yeah.
That's what we always say about designers. It's like they're like canaries or goldfish. You shouldn't really just have one, you should have two. So at least you can bounce each other's ideas off each other, which, the AI can step in and help with that process. But I wouldn't solely depend on it.
No, I wouldn't. Yeah. So we've got our Black Country accent this week.
Yeah,
then.
Black Country. Yeah.
What was last week?
Yeah. Well, Maz was.
She was straddling, wasn't she?
Well, kind of in between the two. But what was it you were saying? You could tell if you were Black Country earlier.
So the slight different twang differences between, because I'm sort of Sedgley, like Dudley kind of area. Then you've got like towards Albury, West Bromwich, and Birmingham. We've all sort of got a slightly different sort of tone. So like some people will say, like I'll say phone. Some people say phone. Or door or doer, and it's proper. Or wheel, we're saying about wheel and whale.
Yeah,
and so it's quite an interesting one.
Yeah, all this different dialect, every day's a school day.
The crazy thing is I'm from around here, and even I don't get it.
Yeah, you just nod and smile.
I do. Yeah, I was from Albury, so I was born in Albury, so it doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah. Well, I think that's everything for today. I think it's been really useful. We learned a lot about branding. Yeah. Really appreciate you coming down. Thank you.
No problem at all. Anytime.
And until next time, we'll see you next time.
No, thank you so much. Thank you.
No problem at all.